In this next lesson, we're going to look at the second function we use CyberLink for, which is a quickie 2D to 3D conversion. And as we said in the first lesson regarding CyberLink, we use it to make a 3D Blu-ray. The second reason is to do a quickie conversion, and the third is we use it to make slideshows, which are a supplemental chapter on the Blu-ray. But we're going to show you something really cool about the stuff that we do and how we do it. And you don't have to spend $4,000 to $50,000 a minute to have a 2D to 3D conversion done, as long as you use it sparingly and strategically. And as part of this lesson, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to go here into PowerDirector 12 again, and we'll get rid of these obnoxious JPEGs that pop up. And I'm going to bring in an Adobe After Effects template that we purchased out on the web for $36. And we talk about all these additional resources in a supplemental chapter that you guys will see where we get it, what websites we go to, how we learn to use Adobe After Effects, and how we looked at tutorials from some of these great vendors that show how to use their templates. But I'm going to go into my Explorer, and I'm going to bring in one of these templates, which is called Crumble by Anthony Bisher at dropdrop.com. And we talk about him and his website in a subsequent tutorial. I'm going to go find this file, which has been previously rendered. I'll go into my Crumble and the Equinox, and in here we have taken a file that was rendered out of Adobe After Effects, and it's called the Crumble template. And I'm just going to wind up dragging it into my timeline. Of course, in CyberLink, I can stretch these out if I want to see it a little more. And this is a 2D Adobe After Effects template that we did for Equinox and is on our website and also at the beginning of the movies. And we'll just play this template for 40 seconds and you guys will go, wow, we wound up doing this in a couple hours, getting some of these templates that are out on the web that, like I say, we talk about in a subsequent chapter. So let me go ahead and play this. That was pretty cool. But the problem we have is this template is a 2D template, and I do my movies in 2D and 3D. We searched long and hard, and as part of what we talked about, that we went over 100 programs and over 1,500 effects to find these tools that anybody can use and learn in less than an hour about how to do it. As part of this, that we looked at various solutions all the way up to the Nuke Foundry. Essentially, I spent a couple months on that and said, well, the average person isn't going to be able to do this, and they're going to throw their hands up in the air, and it's $4,000 to $7,000 anyway. People just aren't going to buy it, especially for the market that this tutorial series is for. Part of this review, and we probably looked at 7 or 8 different packages that did 2D to 3D conversion, low-end packages. None of them did them very well, and most of them were hard to use. But CyberLink, besides using it to make a 3D Blu-ray, also has 2D to 3D conversion technology in it that isn't that bad as long as you're strategic in the way that you use them. We're going to talk about this. First thing is, how do we take this 2D to 3D Adobe After Effects template and convert it from 2D to 3D? And it's really easy. All you do is you click on the file, you come to your power tools, and in here it has a 2D to 3D conversion on it. We click this particular button, and now it's going to convert it based on standard settings they have. But we go in and do a little extra things. We just click on this fixed enhance button. And in here, they have what's called 3D orientation. Negative means you're going to put in a negative space or in front of the television screen. And positive means that you're going to go create and set the convergence point that in fact it's going to appear to be depth or behind the television screen. And this program only really does a decent conversion for stuff that you want to convert to the positive space. And we usually set this up to a 5, somewhere between 5 and 10. We don't go much more than that. And you can see how the results are, and you really don't get the real results until you put it on a big screen TV. And everybody goes, well, why didn't you see the real results until you put it on a big screen TV? Is because as your screen dimensions grow from a 23-inch monitor, something which is in negative space may appear 6 inches out of the screen. But when you go to an 80-inch television, when that screen gets bigger on that vertical line, what happens is your 3D effects also get more pronounced. Something that on a 23-inch monitor appeared 6 inches out of the screen, when you move it to an 80-inch TV, that now is appearing 4 feet out of the screen. I want you all to be cognizant is that you don't really know how far those assets are coming out of your screen in the negative space looking at a computer monitor, because it may only appear 6 inches, and you take it over your TV and it's coming all the way out. Maybe you have a little bit of eye strain, so you have to tone it down a little. So on here that we'll use this program, and we usually only use it for positive shots, and that actually does a pretty good conversion. A lot of people have come up and said, man, how do you guys wind up doing these Adobe After Effects, getting them in 2D and 3D? And we do it actually quite easy, and it works for us. Part of the thing that happens is, well, why don't I just take all my 2D film and convert it from 2D to 3D? Well, it isn't going to work. Cyberlink is not a Hollywood level conversion that they charge $50,000 a minute to do. And in fact, I got a funny story. We got given to us the promotional video that plays on the ferry ride from Playa del Carmen to Cozumel. It's about 4 minutes long, and I was watching and I go, man, this video is great. And the shots, the way they did it. Went and found it on YouTube and then hunted the guy down who actually did it, and he graciously allowed us to use it and asked that it become a supplemental chapter in 3D Coral Reef Aquarium, and it's in there, and we're also going to include it on the big three, the magical reefs of Bonaire, Cozumel, and the Grand Caymans. Part of using that promotional video that played on the ferry ride from Playa del Carmen, the Grand Caymans, I reached out to various groups to try to get the conversion done to a Hollywood standard, and the lowest quote I got was $22,000, and I wasn't about to blow $22,000 on a supplemental chapter that someone else was asking me to include as a favor to them, including giving them credits for it. Those are some of the issues that you're going to face, is that first, people want a lot of money to do it, and secondly, they want weeks to do that conversion. I mean, Hollywood is wrapped up in these Legend 3Ds and other guys that they spend a year doing the conversion, and they spend $50,000 a minute. Most of you, and probably 99.9% of everybody watching these video tutorials, is not going to go that route, especially when you have a client breathing down your back. So Cyberlink allows you to do some 2D to 3D conversion really, really fast, really quick, and you can do it yourself and do it the way you want it. It's going to take a lot of practice on this, and through us that we went through based on doing hundreds and hundreds of renders on here about how to get this stuff to work. So we're going to show you some tips and tricks so that you don't pull your hair out and go through hundreds of renders the way we did. And on the fixed and enhance, we usually wind up setting these dials between 5 and 10, and we never ramp it up over 20 each way. We rarely do any negative convergence adjustment on the assets because it just doesn't really come out clean, but there are certain shots that will work, and we'll discuss with you about those if you're strategic the way you do it. Not only do we do this for Adobe After Effects templates on certain money shots, like me being in a cage filming great white sharks in South Africa, some of that film is great and I want to be able to use it. I don't want to just push my 2D assets to the graveyard. And we'll talk about some strategy about what shots really convert really well into the positive space. Not all the shots work, but certain shots do. And we'll step you through those procedures about what our experiences were so that you don't go through the frustration that we went through, which is what this guide is really all about. Now that I've turned around and converted this thing to 2D and 3D, we're not going to go into create discs that we use to produce a 3D Blu-ray. We're going to press on this button here called Produce. Under Produce, it comes up and you have standard 2D and 3D, and we click on 3D. I pick the H.264 AVC format. And then on the 3D output, you actually pick side-by-side half. Not side-by-side full, but pick side-by-side half, and don't pick anaglyph. You pick that side-by-side half, and then you come in and select how you want to code it. Because I film at 60i and my film over in Premiere Pro or whatever video editing packages I'm using on that sequence is set to 60i, they give you various choices in here: 60p, 60i, 24p. I choose this AVC 1920 by 1080 60i 24 megabytes per second. And then I just come down to this button here, turn around and click on it, say where I'm going to save it. For this, I'll just put it to the desktop, and I'll go Equinox Crumble. Let me get it spelled right. And I hit save, and I just hit this little start button here. And believe it or not, this thing that we see the progress line going on up here, it's moving forward pretty quick. So it's going to take that 2D film and, based on the stuff we did, go ahead and render out separate left-right eyes with some 3D effect on there. Now, once again, it's not going to be to Iron Man 3, but it's something that you can do quickly to add that other nuance or touch of professionalism to your Blu-rays without spending a ton of money. Because if you're making a 3D Blu-ray, you want it to be in 3D. If it's 2D, you don't really care. But I just have to say that this template in 3D is great. And we use this program to wind up doing the conversion without a lot of hassle or trauma. Once the file actually is completely rendered, and I'll just exit out of the program, I'm going to come back into Premiere Pro. I have the program right here. I'll just drag this crumble piece here. I have the Equinox misspelled wrong, so I can come in here and once again rename it inside of Adobe Premiere Pro. It does keep it linked to that file, and I'll slot it into what's called the Adobe After Effects folder that I have in here, because I arrange my assets as I go along, and you'll find out that once you do it that way, that you can find your assets a lot quicker. If I'm going to use this as an introduction or something that plays before my movie starts, I just take this and slot it right down here, and you're going to notice, wow, I got a left and right eye. That's what Cyberlink did for me. And I come along and take this quick S3D plugin from Vision 3 Imaging Inc., and I'll go to my effect control, and once again, because it's a left-right eye, it defaults to left-right eye, and I'll just switch it to the left, and I'm sitting here editing. Once again, if I go back to side by side, it shows up. I'm doing my views here, and I'm editing, and I have something in the beginning of the movie. Now, usually when I have separations between video clips, chapters, etc., I also use a black clip, and you can come in here to File, New, and Adobe has what's called Black Video. It brings it right in here. I'll make sure it's slotted in under After Effects, and I can drag that in so I have separation between my scenes. Usually 5 seconds is too much, so I'll place my splicing tool, and I'll just get rid of 2.5 seconds. And now as I move forward on my movies, I can wind up taking a clip or clips based on the way my movies are, and I'll just give you a quick example. It's not really a real scenario. We're actually going to do a lesson on actually a real scenario on 3D Coral Reef Aquarium, the way that we splice all these assets together. And I can turn around and paste that clip onto this timeline. I'll just get rid of that extra space. And now I have an introduction going on my movies, which have sound on them. And I've slotted in a 2D Adobe After Effects template that was converted to 3D. So that's some of the things that we do related to converting Adobe After Effects templates. And now I'm going to stop here for a second, and I'm going to bring a piece of clip into Cyberlink, which is a 2D shot, what I call a money shot, a really good shot. And we'll talk about the strategy to doing the conversion and what shots work. Just bear with me a second. I'll be back in just a few seconds. Our next discussion regarding 2D to 3D conversion quickly using Cyberlink is strategically about what shots work. What we found out is that there's really only certain type of shots actually work using this low-end conversion technology, and those are shots that have a lot of water in them with the main asset sitting off by itself. So here we see a scene that has a lot of water with a fish sitting in the middle, and it does actually a decent job converting this from 2D to 3D in positive space. So once again, I just come in here, click on the clip, go to Power Tools, right down here, do a 2D to 3D conversion. I leave these scene depths just on the standard, and you can go to the Fix Enhancement and do a 3D orientation. And usually on the horizontal, I just set it really low on something like 5. It actually does a decent job. It's not going to be, once again, the Hollywood standards, but I'm now going to give you how you get past the audience and the viewing public where they don't really know. If you limit your total amount of conversions to 10% of your entire playtime, including the Adobe After Effects front ends and the introduction to the movies, the average person is not going to be able to tell that you used a low-end program like this to do it. And then if you intersperse what I'm going to refer to as money shots, is unique shots that you really like and appreciate, and these are assets that you have sitting on a bin, or even assets that you got at the Pond 5, or video clips, and you find, let's say, great white sharks or sharks, and you're doing a segment, you don't even have enough film. If you strategically pick shots like this with a lot of water in them, you can actually wind up converting those into a positive space and interspersing them throughout the film. You don't want to do 9 or 10 of these shots in a row, because it's going to become obvious to the viewing public that it's not as good positive film as your positive space film that you've shot with your native 3D camera. But if you do it where you put one of these clips and then 5 or 6 clips shot with a 3D camera, and then put another one of these clips and then 8 or 9 shots shot with your 3D camcorder, it's very hard for the average person to tell that you have a converted clip in there. And usually these clips that we use are somewhere 5 to 6 seconds. We don't have 15-second converted clips. We usually limit them to some sort of unique shot, somewhere between 5 to 10 seconds. And you can actually wind up recycling some of your 2D to 3D assets in a pretty effective manner, and you roll forward. So once again, we'll go through the same procedure. We hit produce, we go to 3D, H.264. I set it on that side-by-side half width because I shoot in 60i. I use that 1080 60i 24p. I'll come along here and say I'm going to save it to my desktop, and we'll call it Boxfish 2D to 3D, and that's the way I usually wind up defining my assets. I want to make sure what I have that was converted from 2D to 3D, and I'll just hit save, and then I hit the start button. And once again, we see how fast it's really doing this clip. We're going through all these procedures that we're really doing about how to do it. I'll just exit out of Cyberlink and come back into Premiere Pro. And once again, like we saw before, I'll just drag the asset over. Usually on my 2D to 3D assets, I'll turn around and create another bin and call this 2D to 3D converted assets. And I'll turn around and wind up clipping on this clip and moving my scroll over, and we see that Cyberlink created a left-right eye. So in order to get everything back in tune, I'll just go to the Vision 3 Imaging Quick S3D plugin. I'll drag it right onto the film, and it automatically recognizes or defaults to side-by-side, but I can start switching my left eye, right eye, and move forward from there. Now, one thing you have to be careful is on some of these clips, they come in, you see this black border here. Well, you don't want that. You have to wind up taking your film, and I grab this little box here and I stretch it out so that film now winds up taking up the entire space, because I don't want any black edges. And you have to be careful that when you bring this film in, that's another little tip or trick, because we scratched our head. We started getting these lines along there, and then finally I looked at it and I said, oh, okay, I see. Cyberlink converted, but we got some spaces on the edges there, and you look at both the left and right eye to make sure that those are clean all around. And you can see when we're switching the eyes that you'll have a little movement in the film. See how the fish is just changing a little. That's how you wind up converting a 2D to 3D film quick. Just be strategic. Do not get greedy. Put these clips in, 1 out of 6 clips to 1 out of 10 clips. Make them somewhere between 5 to 10 seconds long, and then go back and look at your real money shots and figure out how you're going to wind up using some of those shots. And you have to have a bunch of water in the shot for really Cyberlink to do a very good job. If you have a camera pointing down directly at the coral, it's not going to work, and you're just not going to like the results. But I find that on something like this, it actually kind of works, which is why we picked that Adobe After Effects template from Crumble. If you go back and look at it again, you'll notice that the screens are in there relatively in the middle of the screen, and then it's almost like the dead space or free space around what's going on is almost like the water medium. That's some of the tips and tricks that we're giving you here. And like I said, that we went through a lot of programs to try to figure out what was easy to use and what works. And that's the second reason we use Cyberlink, to convert our Adobe After Effects templates and also to convert some of our selected money shots that we know will work. It will not work on everything. Now we're going to go to the third reason we use Cyberlink, which is going to be to create a slideshow. And a slideshow is a really cool way to take your pictures, collect dust, which all of us have, by the way, and recycle them, to use them as a supplemental chapter. And we're going to go ahead and wind up having a discussion about this. So I'll see you all just in a few seconds, which is really part 3 of how to use Cyberlink and the 3 reasons that we use it.